Hello and welcome back to this episode of Making Connections, the BattleCON analysis show where I, your host, Marco DeSantos, try not to do so horribly at analyzing BattleCON online. In the previous episode, we played some Mikhail games, we deserved to lose, but absolutely did not. But actually, in the previous week, we actually played some more Imperial spells in Steam, the upcoming, well, rather current game that we have up on Kickstarter. So if you guys want to check that out and want to check me play and absolutely ruin my relationship with my office mates, please check the video out here and the eye icon over there in the top corner, and you'll be able to see us play that game. And maybe if you like the game or like what you see, please consider backing it, the link for which can be found in the description down below. So without much else to say, let's go on to this game. This game is going to be an analysis of a game between two of the game's best players. We have Elephant, the tournament winner for the first tournament we've had in BattleCon Online, but we also have Moon Knight, aka Charles, aka three-time world champ, as per real-life BattleCon. So we'll see these two top of their game players using two of the strongest characters in the game, Luke and Magdalena, and we will see how this game turns out. I actually don't know the final result, but I know that the game is very interesting, as vouched for by Elephant themselves. So this will be a live commentary as I analyze and try to check what are the recipes for victory for these characters and what things go in their favor and what things don't. So without much else to say, let's move on to the game and let's hope and see that we have a good game on our hands. I know it says Soul King U, but trust me, it is a Elephant versus Charles replay. I'm going to be very interested in seeing where this goes. My mouse will be on the screen, don't worry, I know it is. It's so that I can point things out for you guys. So what's the recipe for success for both of these characters? Magdalena needs to reach the late game, and Luke needs to take advantage of the early game where Magdalena's weak. Luke's really good at doing that in the early game because he has a lot of good statted cards that don't require a lot of setup to do. So he has multiple options in the first beat. He is actually able to either go for a memento or go for a fusion. So there he goes. Here's the fusion shot. This actually is really useful because it takes advantage of the priority number 3, which is really good for countering a obvious dodge play from Magdalena beat 1. Remember, Magdalena dodges quite often because she wins in the long run. So delaying is actually her key strategy. So being able to counter the dodge is very important. Things turn out in Luke's advantage here. Magdalena does a switch burst, which is trying to get away from the obvious memento drive on beat 1. But this is almost equally as good as that. Deals 5 damage in total to Magdalena. Super powerful. Takes out 1/4 of her health bar on beat 1. But it's also really good to notice the positioning here. They're at range 4. Magdalena can't actually hit Luke from this range reliably. She has to use an Excelsius drive, which is also priority 3. So priority 3 is now super duper bad for Magdalena to try out because her dodge and her Excelsius drive are that priority. So it's now Luke's advantage. He has a lot of ways to hit from this space, especially using Chrono. I do believe, yes, there you go, there's a Chrono Strike. That's a very obvious move. What can Magdalena do against this? There's a lot of things she can do, but I don't think any of them will severely beat Chrono Strike. And she reveals a Priestess Strike. This is actually not a bad move on Charles' part. Charles is basically saying that Luke will probably go melee anyway, so let's just take the hit and then make sure to recover some life while dealing some damage. Overall, this is a net positive 1 for Elephant, but remember that Luke has way better stats than Magdalena at this point in the game, so the mere fact that Charles or Moon Knight is able to trade only -1 against Luke is really, really good for him. So I don't know who necessarily is winning this beat, but I have a firm belief that Elephant has Charles where he wants him, you know? In this melee range with no space to retreat, Maggie's gonna have a hard time. This is where Luke's unique base comes real and handy because Maggie actually has safety in her hand, safety blessing specifically, and it might be a really good move right now. However, remember that Luke has flash, which ignores stun guard. This can be a huge factor in this matchup because Maggie won't be able to get her blessings off when she wants to, especially now that she's level 1. This is actually the perfect time to go for a safety blessing or any form of blessing so that she can instantly become level 2. But Elephant sees this and does a memento flash, hopefully having enough priority to outspeed the Maggie and stun her out. This is where Moon Knight obviously doesn't fall for the trick, doesn't go for the obvious safety blessing or any form of blessing, and does a sanctimonious dodge instead, giving him the ability to give himself some breathing room as well as activate his dodge once again. This positioning brings them back to beat 1, but it essentially brings them back to beat 1, but it also gives Maggie the opportunity to dodge back using burst. At this range, it seems that Luke has no opportunity to hit Maggie if she does indeed do her dodge using burst, or rather if she does burst back using burst. So this is a very good positioning on Charles' part, and I'm very happy to see that. This fainting shot might look like it'll hit, but it'll only actually hit if Maggie doesn't burst. But I firmly believe that Maggie will probably burst at this point. There you go, there's a switch burst. So why is Maggie doing this? Why is Maggie purposely just doing nothing during her beats? Remember that Magdalena grows stronger over time. So whenever there's a null beat, it actually goes in her favor. Sure, Luke might be able to gain time tokens over time as well. However, levels or experience for Maggie end up being way more useful than time tokens for Luke. So now they're both at range 6, but Luke doesn't have his shot. This means that Maggie actually has her Excelsius shot to fall back on. Though I think with our recent nerfs to Excelsius, even Maggie can't hit at range 6 right now, which is very important. So at this range, sure, Charles has provided himself some form of safety against Luke, but he's also not able to hit Luke from this range, which is absolutely no problem for Magdalena because she is 100% all about delaying. However, fainting does let Luke advance once more, and with Chrono coming back into his hand, we're back in the situation we were in beat 2. Now Maggie has to contest against Elephant or Luke's bevy of ranged attacks without her easy attack pairs in hand. But now that Maggie's level 2, she's able to have way more options, and she might even be able to outspeed this fusion drive. There you go. So there goes Elephant spending 3 to advance closer to Magdalena, probably going to range 2 or range 1. We will see what he does when the attack pairs are revealed. And now there's a lot of force anti-ing here and there. With Charles having the force advantage, he can actually force Elephant to anti way more force than he has to this beat. So we'll see what happens here. There's the Excelsius blessing. It'll have enough stun guard to run through the fusion drive. But Maggie will indeed take a lot of damage. Overall, I think 6 damage from this fusion drive. That's not very good, especially now that Moon Knight is currently low HP. So he'll probably drop down to 6 and then heal back up with Excelsius blessings back to 9. So in the end of the day, we're gonna have a 29 game. This looks heavily in Luke's advantage. And that's really all what this matchup's about. Like I said earlier, it's all about analyzing and being able to take advantage of Magdalena's early beats in order to be able to effectively beat her in the late game despite her having big amounts of stats. One thing that you have to notice is that Maggie actually uses her extra priority really well in the late game because when she's low on health, she has to go first or die. The problem though is that Luke actually has a lot of priority in his hands, and unless Magdalena's already level 4, there's no way she's gonna outspeed Luke doing a flash. And that flash is going to be very useful for Luke because he's able to shut down Magdalena's effective pairs with its speed and ability to ignore stun guard. That will be very useful, as we probably will see. Again, I don't know the final result of this game, but it seems that everything's going all Luke right now. This Chrono Flash is a really powerful move. I don't think Magdalena can actually do anything about it unless she does a grasp, but that involves hard reading this Chrono Flash. And she doesn't. Instead, she just decides to Priestess and dodge back. Priestess has been nerfed. Usually it was a after activating regain 1 life. Now it's an on hit. That's very important because if it was actually after activating, more Priestess's dodges would have happened. Anyway, now that we're seeing this, we're just seeing both of them feel each other out. Elephant has the huge advantage here, so it's up to Charles to basically not die for the rest of the game. It's gonna be very hard, especially at this specific range. Luke's gonna be able to get back his shot, and you know, Luke at range 4 with shot is really good. But Maggie is now also nearing level 3, and Maggie has 2 experience tokens or 2 spiritual tokens with her, which means that she can use Sanctimonious to some effect right now. But since she's gonna level up, she's gonna lose all of those tokens, and Sanctimonious goes back to being pseudo garbage by having almost no range. So we're gonna see how this beat plays out. I'm not actually sure what Magdalena should be doing here. There you go, there's an eternal dodge. So Luke is basically just taking this time to not take too much damage. Magdalena should probably do a shot in this situation, or a switch burst. So this is not a bad play either. Luke, in many situations, Alphand has actually probably conditioned Moon Knight to fear the shot at this range. But now that he doesn't have Chrono or Flash in hand, this dodge is actually relatively safe. And as we've talked about multiple games, multiple beats earlier, it's all about delaying time. However, Alphand again takes advantage of this fact that new Magdalena can't actually hit range 6 even with her shots. As far as I know, that's just not the case, because this thing, oh, there we go, it still move up to 1. Never mind then. So Magdalena can still move up to 1 space and still hit those ranges really, really well. But remember that your max range is limited to 3, so even an Excelsius shot can't hit at range 6. And this is Magdalena's biggest problem, right? She can't hit at range 6, so therefore this beat's gonna absolutely be dead for both of these guys. And it's gonna be a very interesting beat to see. So I don't, we will see Magdalena doing a shot, doing a power ant here. And there's an Excelsius shot, and there's the clash. So why did Magdalena do a shot? Remember, this was probably a few patches back, and Excelsius probably still didn't have this range limited to 3 thing. It's just a few quirks in the replay system. So, but that clash ended up going Magdalena's way. She's able to effectively retreat back into the corner, and this is very important, remember, because she now has access to Sanctimonious, and it's going to be very effective against Luke at this maximum range, especially if Luke does not have his shot in hand. I do apologize, there's this replay actually came from multiple versions ago, so it might not be like a completely accurate analysis of what the current matchup is like, but that's absolutely fine. We're still able to see some great Luke versus Magdalena gameplay here. I'm really excited to see these 2 tournament caliber players play. It's very exciting. So what are we planning here? I think Magdalena's probably gonna do a shot, and Luke's just trying to get rid of certain cards in his hand. This Chrono Burst is actually really good because Luke can actually still hit from this range. All Luke has to do is never mind then. Because you can actually just fizzle the start of beat on burst, then do Chrono to advance. But it seems that both players just decided to stay where they are, and it's gonna look really silly as both of these pro players stay at range 6 and do nothing for 2 beats straight. And there you go. So the Priestess here still recovered life. That means that this is old version Priestess that still did regain life after activating. This was the optimal strategy as Magdalena back in those days, which is to just Priestess dodge a lot of the time and Priestess whenever you could to heal. Obviously she's been nerfed since then, so it's not as accurate as this, but it just goes to show that with proper play you could still beat what were supposedly really OP characters. So notice how both of these players are essentially playing weirdly by basically not doing anything for a few beats. This Eternal Grass is really interesting because the Eternal's really good for countering what is the obvious shot play for Magdalena right now, probably a Sanctimonious shot. There you go. But it's actually a Sanctimonious Burst, which is even better because the shot is a useful tool that can be used for other things. The Sanctimonious Burst, there you go, for every 2 trance. There we go, range 7. Yeah. So there's a few inconsistencies with this replay. I do apologize. It took me a while to get into this replay and start recording it. But we still get to see some cool things. I think Sanctimonious is now rounded up. Okay, so that makes sense. She is able to hit really effectively, really well, and Luke is, you know, able to soak a lot using his Eternal. That's just the strength of Luke, you know. That 6 damage got mitigated all the way down to 2. And even then, we're now at max range with both of these guys. trying their best to win. So what seemed like a huge loss for Magdalena is turning out to be more even than we thought. Now that she's level 4, every single hit from her will probably deal 6 to 7 damage. And Luke actually can't hit Magdalena from this range without Chrono or without enough time tokens. So we have to see how well Maggie does. I'm pretty sure Maggie is about to do an Excelsius shot right now. Remember, old Excelsius was able to hit at this range, and there you go. Luke isn't actually able to do much about it, so Magdalena is going to be able to hit him for over 6 damage in one beat. That's gonna be absolutely crazy. That's gonna deal a lot of damage and gonna bring them basically to the same life total. Now a 12-11 game. What seemed to be a losing game for Magdalena is now on even turns. But however, the big difference now is that she's at level 4 and Luke is at only 2 time tokens. This is a significant advantage in Magdalena's part. We will see how things work out. At this point, it's very important to realize that Luke does not have his ranged options and is at range 3. This kind of pseudo locks him into doing Chrono or doing a drive next beat. We shall see what happens. This is probably going to be a Chrono attack or some sort of, a Memento Burst. So this means that Luke is actually reading the drive play from Magdalena. Let's see if she bites. And she doesn't bite. The higher priority Priestess dodge is able to dodge over the slower burst play. So this is the point where in priority becomes important for your order of start of beat effects. Maggie is able to advance 3, prevent herself from getting hit while also regaining 1 life from the old version of Priestess. Remember, these cards are the updated cards because that's just how our replay system works. I do deeply apologize, that's how it worked out. There you go, she's able to recover 1 life, bringing it to an even parity of 12-12. So again, like I was saying, that's just how Magdalena games turn out. At first she seems like she's heavily losing, but if she catches back up and does a few good plays, all those delaying beats wherein it looked like they were doing nothing were actually beats where Charles or Moon Knight was actively doing his best in order to achieve what he wanted to achieve, and that was to delay the game to the point wherein he's able to fight back. So this is now a really tenuous game for Elephant's Luke because Elephant cannot afford to get hit twice. Against a level 4 Magdalena, getting hit twice is a death sentence. But at the same time, Magdalena only has a few beats to come back with the life total. And remember, I was talking about the flash earlier. So even no matter how fast Magdalena is, her fastest attack right now is probably a spiritual grasp. And even then, Elephant could probably space his way into making sure that his attack is generally safe against that spiritual grasp. So we will see what plays happen right now. And this is going to be a very interesting set of beats because Luke now actually has the capability of doing 3 token anti into fusion shot, which is going to be a huge life total in his corner. But at the same time, Magdalena can easily just ignore all of that and do her Sanctimonious / Excelsius shot. So Luke is trying to clash that right now by doing Fusion Grasp. I don't think that will actually work. So I don't know what Luke's game plan here is. Is he trying to capture the drive? Or is he trying to clash a specific thing? So I'm pretty sure that he's trying to clash a specific thing, probably an Excelsius drive, since that's exactly 7th priority. There you go. And it turns out that it was exactly the play that Moon Knight was doing. He's able to clash with Fusion Grasp, and now there you go. This actually won't hit, I think. Yes, it won't hit because he's forced to retreat 1, then he can advance 1, but he'll only be at range 5. So neither of them hit this beat. And why is this very important? It's actually very important on 2 levels, but on 1 level, really, 2 levels. Number 1, at this range, again, we have to talk about how Magdalena has a supremely hard time hitting from this range, especially without Sanctimonious or Excelsius in her hand. In fact, without those 2 styles in her hand, I don't think she actually has any way of hitting Luke at range 5. But Luke now has 4 time tokens and the shot in his hand. These are all really big things because it means that Luke is able to hit Maggie right now. And with this being the last beat, Luke is able to essentially use fainting shot or any combination of chrono and whatever to hit Magdalena and end up killing her. And this is the cool thing right here. Remember that 3 token effect says up to. So depending on what Magdalena does, Luke has a lot of options to be able to dodge and hit Magdalena out of her attacks. And this is how you beat a level 4 Magdalena. And it's at the late game, it's Magdalena's job to be able to kill you. If you're able to keep the life lead up until the last beat, Magdalena will not be able to retaliate well enough, and Luke takes the game by essentially hitting her at range 5 and not getting hit back. Because even if Magdalena has stun guard 6, even if you have so much power, her limited range became her ultimate downfall. Luke's ability to effectively choose which range he wants to fight at wins out in the end, winning Elephant this game 12-9. There were ups, there were downs, but we see that at the end of the day, proper spacing and proper prediction were able to net Luke the win, despite the fact that Magdalena was especially strong when this game was played. Despite what the cards might say, Maggie's cards were actually really powerful in this meta. And it's very nice to see how Luke is able to adapt to those strategies and able to effectively mitigate Maggie's power by using his mobility and using his priority and using hard reads and clashes to be able to effectively neutralize her advantages, as well as keep the advantage for himself in the late game and eke out a win despite looking like it was gonna be a loss. So that was a very interesting game and a very powerful game. I do deeply apologize that the replay was not consistent with what the cards were at that time. That's just how it goes when it takes me a long time to analyze your games. I'm deeply sorry that it took so long, making this video a bit outdated, I guess. But same things still apply. This matchup is heavily defined by your ability to take advantage of the early game. It's also heavily defined by your ability to work around Magdalena's ranges. Given that current Magdalena is actually significantly weaker than past Magdalena, we've actually exacerbated her weaknesses. Specifically, we've gotten rid a lot of her range by making Excelsius's max range 3. This means that no matter how hard Maggie tries, if you end up at range 6 against her, it's actually really hard for her to do anything to hit you. This is a very important range to remember, because if your character has reliable ways to hit at range 6, for example Luke with his chrono and his 3 token Andy, or Rukyuk with his natural long range, you're able to take advantage of that positioning. And regardless of how fast or how much stun guard or how much power Magdalena has, if she can't hit you, none of those stats really matter. Remember, hit confirm and range are some of the most important stats in the game, because none of the other stats actually matter otherwise. So with that said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this analysis video. If you guys want me to analyze more gameplay, please tell me and I'll do my best to get them way before the patches come out. But I think that by the time I release this, the next week we'll actually have a new character. So I'll probably do that and analyze and or look at new character that's going to come out. I believe it's going to be Anoth, the secret boss character from all of the Devastation or War remastered sets. I'm not sure which one, but she's going to be a very interesting character and I can't wait to use her. She's one of my favorite characters by design because she is a really cool Juggernaut style character who is every kind of character but only one at a time. So she can be a really slow heavy Juggernaut, or she could be a defensive character, or she can be a fast-paced speedster. So we'll see it when she comes out. But without much else to say, thank you so much for watching. And please, if you guys want me to analyze specific matchups or use specific characters, please put them in the description down below. And if you think I analyzed anything in this game wrong, please tell me in the comment section down below. What do you think about this matchup? Do you want to talk about certain things that I've missed? How do you feel about the Luke Magdalena matchup now that we've nerfed some of Magdalena's cards? Do you agree with my points? Please discuss with me in the comment section down below. I love discussing these kinds of things with you. So without much else to thank you so much for watching, and thank you, World of Indians. Thank you, and good night.